I thought I was just stopping for gas on my way home from my sister's wedding. I had no idea that a scribbled note on a receipt would save my life and reveal that someone had been following me for over 200 miles. My name is Rachel Torres. I'm 29, a graphic designer from Austin, Texas. And this is the story of the night a gas station cashier saw what I couldn't see, and why I'm still alive to tell you about it. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to that night. It was a Saturday night, 11:47 p.m. I was driving home alone from Dallas after my younger sister Jordan's wedding. I was exhausted, but happy, still wearing my bridesmaid dress under my hoodie because I was too tired to change. The wedding had been absolutely beautiful. Jordan looked stunning. My dad cried during his speech, and I'd spent the whole day running around making sure everything was perfect. Around 8 p.m., after Jordan and her new husband left for their honeymoon, my parents pulled me aside. "Rachel, just stay the night," my mom said, holding both my hands. "You look exhausted. Drive back in the morning when you're rested." I shook my head. "Mom, I'll be fine. I've got a huge client presentation Monday morning, and I really want to sleep in my own bed. It's only a 3-hour drive." My dad didn't look convinced. "At least call us when you get home, okay? No matter how late." "I promise," I said, hugging them both. So there I was, 3 hours into the drive on Highway 35. The highway was mostly empty, just the occasional truck passing by. To keep myself awake, I'd called my best friend Nina around 10 p.m. "Girl, your speech made me cry," Nina said through the phone. "And did you see how Jordan's husband looked at her during the vows? That's the kind of love we all need." We talked about the wedding, gossiped about some of the guests, and laughed about how my mom had basically sobbed through the entire ceremony. But after about 30 minutes, my phone started dying. "Okay, I'm at 4% battery," I told Nina. "I better let you go before this thing dies completely. Drive safe, babe. Text me when you're home." After that, it was just me, the dark highway, and my thoughts. I had about an hour left to go. I remember feeling so peaceful in that moment. The wedding had gone perfectly, my sister was happy, and I was heading home to my cozy apartment. I had no idea what was coming. Around 11:45, my gas light came on. I'd been so focused on getting home that I forgot to fill up earlier. I saw a sign for a gas station at the next exit and pulled off the highway. The place was called Quick Stop, and honestly, it looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1990s. You know the type. Flickering neon signs, cracked pavement, the kind of place you only stop at because you have no other choice. There were only 2 other cars in the lot when I pulled in. One was parked way over by the air pump, a silver sedan. I didn't see anyone inside it, but I figured the driver was in the bathroom or something. I parked at pump number 6, the one closest to the convenience store entrance. Only one side of the parking lot had decent lighting, and thankfully, I was on that side. I stepped out of my car into the cool night air. It felt good after sitting for so long. I swiped my card, started pumping gas, and just stood there for a minute, stretching my legs and looking up at the stars. It was so quiet, almost too quiet. When the pump clicked off, I headed inside. I needed coffee desperately, and honestly, I just wanted to use the bathroom and grab something sweet to keep me awake for the last stretch home. The inside of the store was bright, almost painfully so after the darkness outside. There was only one person working, a young guy behind the counter. He looked about 22 or 23, with dark circles under his eyes like he'd been working the night shift for way too long. His name tag said, Marcus. I grabbed a large coffee from the machine in the back and picked up a bag of Skittles, comfort food. As I walked up to the counter, I tried to make small talk. "Long night?" I asked, setting my stuff down. Marcus looked up at me, and I noticed something strange. His eyes kept darting toward the window behind me, like he was distracted by something outside. "Yeah, you could say that," he said quietly. His voice was tense. I figured he was just tired or bored. Working alone at a gas station in the middle of nowhere at midnight couldn't be fun. He scanned my items, and I paid with my card. That's when everything changed. Marcus printed out my receipt and handed it to me. But as I took it, I felt his hand shaking. I looked down at the receipt, confused. And that's when I saw it. At the bottom, in messy handwriting, were 6 words that made my heart stop. Don't turn around. Leave now. I looked up at Marcus, my eyes wide with confusion and fear. My mouth went dry. What? I whispered. What is this? Marcus didn't say anything. He just raised his hand and pointed behind himself at a large security mirror mounted in the corner of the ceiling. It was one of those curved mirrors that let cashiers see the whole parking lot. I looked at the reflection. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. There was my white Honda Civic at the pump where I'd left it. But then I saw movement. Someone was crouched behind my car, a figure in dark clothing, and they were holding something in their hands. My license plate. They had removed my back license plate and were examining it, turning it over in their hands like they were studying it. My entire body went cold. Oh my God, I breathed. Marcus leaned forward across the counter, his voice barely above a whisper. They pulled in right after you. I've been watching them through the window this whole time. They waited until you came inside, then went straight for your car. I already called 911, but you need to stay calm and stay in here with me. My hands started shaking so badly I nearly dropped the receipt. I couldn't take my eyes off the mirror. The figure was still crouched behind my car, completely focused on my license plate. They had no idea we were watching them. Who is that? Why are they taking my license plate? My voice came out higher than normal, panic creeping into every word. I don't know, Marcus said, but I know it's nothing good. Nobody follows someone to a gas station and steals their license plate unless they're planning something worse. My mind started racing, trying to make sense of what was happening. I thought back over my entire drive from Dallas. Had anyone been following me? I remembered seeing headlights in my rearview mirror for long stretches of the highway, but I just assumed it was another driver heading in the same direction. It's a major highway. Lots of people use it late at night. But now, those headlights took on a completely different meaning. Then something clicked in my memory, and my stomach dropped even further. About 90 minutes ago, just outside Waco, I'd stopped at another gas station. Just a quick stop to grab a bottle of water and use the restroom. I remembered parking under a bright light and noticing a silver sedan parked a few spaces away. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time. But that was the same silver sedan, now parked by the air pump outside this gas station. They've been following me, I said, my voice breaking, for hours, since Waco, maybe even since Dallas. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Someone had targeted me. Someone had watched me leave my sister's wedding and decided to follow me down a dark highway in the middle of the night. The thought made me feel sick. Marcus's face hardened. Listen to me, Rachel. I realized he must have seen my name on my credit card. The police are 12 minutes away. The nearest patrol car is coming from the next town over. I've locked the front door using the security system. We're safe in here, okay? They can't get to you. I looked at the door and saw the red light on the electronic lock. 12 minutes felt like an eternity. I pulled my phone out of my hoodie pocket, desperate to call someone, to tell someone what was happening. But when I looked at the screen, my heart sank. 3% battery. The little red battery icon was flashing at me. I tried calling my dad anyway. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely hit his contact. The phone rang once, twice, and then the screen went black. Dead. Completely dead. No, I whispered, staring at the useless piece of metal and glass in my hand. I was cut off from everyone. My parents had no idea where I was or what was happening. Nina thought I was safely driving home. Nobody knew I was trapped in a gas station with a stranger outside who had been following me for over 100 miles. Marcus touched my arm gently. Hey, look at me. We're going to be okay. Just keep watching the mirror and tell me if they move. I nodded, trying to control my breathing. Through the mirror's reflection, I watched the figure finally stand up. It was definitely a man, average height, wearing a black jacket and a baseball cap pulled down low over his face. But here's what made my blood run cold. He didn't put my license plate back on my car. Instead, he slipped it into his jacket pocket and started walking toward the front of my vehicle. Marcus tensed beside me. He's checking to see if you're coming back out. The man stood near the front of my car, looking around the parking lot. His body language changed. He'd been calm and methodical while removing the plate, but now he seemed confused, almost agitated. He was realizing I'd been inside the store too long. A normal person would have paid and left by now. Then he started walking toward the convenience store windows. He was trying to see inside, but the bright interior lights created a glare on the glass that made it hard to see through from outside. Still, he kept coming closer. "Get down," Marcus hissed, and we both crouched behind the counter. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat, in my ears, everywhere. I pressed my back against the cabinet doors, making myself as small as possible. From our hiding spot, I could hear footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate footsteps getting closer to the entrance. "What does he want from me?" I whispered to Marcus, tears starting to stream down my face. "Why is he doing this?" Marcus shook his head, his jaw clenched. "Nothing good. Nobody follows someone for hours and steals their license plate for any good reason." He pulled out his phone and started swiping through something. "I want to show you something, but it's going to scare you. The security cameras recorded everything." He turned his phone toward me, showing me footage from earlier. The timestamp showed my car pulling into the station. 30 seconds later, the silver sedan pulled in behind me, but stayed way back in the darker part of the parking lot, almost hidden. The man had waited inside his car, watching me pump gas, watching me walk into the store. Only after I disappeared inside did he get out and move quickly toward my car. "He knew exactly what he was doing," Marcus said quietly. "Look how careful he is, how he waited for the perfect moment. This isn't the first time he's done something like this." The footsteps outside suddenly stopped. Marcus and I stayed frozen behind the counter, barely breathing. Then we heard it, the sound of someone trying the front door handle. The metal rattled once, twice, 3 times. The man was pulling hard, testing the lock. My whole body went rigid with fear. The only thing between us and this stranger was a glass door and an electronic lock. Marcus grabbed my hand and squeezed it, silently telling me to stay quiet and stay down. The rattling stopped. For a few seconds, there was nothing but silence. Then I heard footsteps again, this time moving along the front of the building. He was looking for another way in. My mind immediately went to the back door, the employee entrance. "Marcus," I whispered urgently, "is there a back door? Is it locked?" "It's a reinforced security door with a deadbolt," he whispered back. "He's not getting through that. Just stay calm." But I could hear the worry in his voice too. We both knew that glass windows could be broken if someone was determined enough. If this man really wanted to get to me, a locked door might not be enough to stop him. After what felt like hours but was probably only a minute, the footsteps came back to the front. I risked lifting my head just enough to peek over the counter at the security mirror. The man was standing directly in front of the door now, looking at something. Then I realized what he was staring at. When Marcus had locked the door, the security system had automatically flipped the sign to closed. The man was reading that sign right now, probably trying to figure out why a 24-hour gas station would suddenly be closed. Then his face appeared in the window. Even from behind the counter, I could see him clearly in the mirror's reflection. He pressed his face close to the glass, his hands cupped around his eyes to block out the glare. He was looking right into the store, searching for us. My breath caught in my throat. I ducked back down, pressing myself against the cabinet so hard the handles dug into my back. "He knows," I breathed. "He knows we saw him." Marcus nodded slowly, his face pale. For a long moment, neither of us moved. We just listened to the silence, wondering what the man would do next. Would he break the window? Would he wait outside for us? Would he run before the police arrived? The not knowing was almost worse than anything else. Then I heard something that made my stomach turn. Footsteps moving away from the door, heading back toward the parking lot, back toward the cars. "He's leaving," Marcus whispered, slowly raising his head to look at the mirror. I lifted my head too, just enough to see the reflection. The man was walking back across the parking lot, but he wasn't rushing. He was walking calmly, casually, like he had all the time in the world. When he reached the silver sedan, he opened the driver's side door but didn't get in. Instead, he stood there looking back at the store, and then he smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile or an embarrassed smile like someone who'd been caught doing something wrong. It was something else entirely, something cold and knowing. He was letting us know that he knew we'd seen everything, and he didn't care. That smile said he'd done this before, and he'd do it again. My blood turned to ice. "Oh God," I whispered. "What kind of person does that?" Marcus didn't answer. He was already pulling up something else on his phone. Before he could show me, we both heard it. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. The man heard them too. His smile disappeared instantly. He jumped into the silver sedan and started the engine, but he was too late. 2 patrol cars came screaming into the parking lot from different directions, their red and blue lights flooding everything. They'd boxed him in perfectly. One car blocked the exit back to the highway, while the other pulled up right behind the silver sedan, trapping it against the air pump. I watched through the mirror as 4 police officers jumped out with their weapons drawn, shouting commands I couldn't quite hear through the glass. The man tried to get out of his car, maybe thinking he could run, but the officers were already surrounding him. "Get on the ground! Hands where we can see them! Now!" Within seconds, he was face down on the pavement with his hands cuffed behind his back. It was over. Just like that, it was over. My legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the floor behind the counter, shaking uncontrollably. Marcus sat down next to me, and I could see his hands were trembling too. We'd been holding it together out of pure survival instinct, but now that the immediate danger had passed, the reality of what had almost happened hit me like a truck. I started crying, huge gasping sobs that I couldn't control. Marcus didn't say anything. He just sat there with me while the police lights painted the walls red and blue. A few minutes later, there was a firm knock on the glass door. Marcus and I both jumped, still on edge from everything that had happened. "Police! You can open the door now. The suspect is in custody." Marcus stood up on shaky legs and went to unlock the security system. The electronic lock clicked open, and a female officer stepped inside. She was probably in her mid-40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Her badge read, Officer Janet Reeves. "Are you Rachel Torres?" she asked, looking directly at me. I nodded, unable to find my voice. "And you must be Marcus Chen, the employee who called this in?" Marcus nodded. Officer Reeves looked between us, and her expression softened slightly. "You two okay? Anyone hurt?" We both shook our heads. "Good. That was smart thinking, son," she said to Marcus. "Calling us when you did probably saved this young woman's life." Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. Saved my life. This wasn't just some creepy guy or a random weirdo. This had been something much more serious. Officer Reeves pulled out a small notebook. "I need to get a statement from both of you. But first, I think you need to hear what we found." She gestured toward the parking lot where 2 other officers were searching the silver sedan. "The man we just arrested is Dennis Howell, age 43. He's wanted in Louisiana in connection with 2 carjackings and 1 attempted abduction." My hand flew to my mouth. Attempted abduction. The words echoed in my head. "What?" I managed to choke out. Officer Reeves pulled out her phone and showed me a wanted poster. It was definitely the same man. Same cold eyes, same build. Howell has a very specific method of operation. He targets women traveling alone on highway routes, usually late at night. He follows them for miles, sometimes over 100 miles, waiting for them to stop for gas. When they do, he removes their back license plate while they're inside paying. Most people don't notice it's missing when they get back in their car, especially at night. Marcus leaned forward. "But why steal the license plate? What does that accomplish?" Officer Reeves's expression grew even more serious. Without a visible license plate, the vehicle becomes much harder to trace and identify. Howell's method is to let his victims get back on the highway, then he forces them off the road at a more isolated location. Maybe he pretends there's something wrong with their car, or he causes a minor collision. When they pull over, he approaches them, and because their license plate is missing, other drivers passing by might not even realize something's wrong. They might think it's just 2 people dealing with a fender bender. The room started spinning. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. That had been his plan for me. He'd been planning to force me off the road somewhere between here and Austin, somewhere dark and isolated where no one would see, no one would help. But how does he choose his targets? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Officer Reeves hesitated. then said, "We're still piecing that together, but based on the other cases, we believe he monitors social media. He looks for women posting about events they're attending and their plans to drive home alone afterward. Did you post anything about your sister's wedding or your drive home?" My heart sank. I had. I'd posted an Instagram story from the wedding reception around 7 o'clock. It showed my car packed up in the parking lot with the caption, "Beautiful night celebrating Jordan. Time for the long drive home. Worth every mile." I'd even tagged the wedding venue in Dallas. I'd basically announced to the entire internet that I was a woman driving alone from Dallas to Austin late at night. I posted on Instagram, I admitted, feeling stupid and naive. I showed my car and said I was driving home alone. Officer Reeves nodded sympathetically. "You're not the first, and unfortunately, you probably won't be the last. These predators are getting smarter about using technology to find vulnerable targets." She paused, then continued. "We found some disturbing items in Howell's vehicle. Zip ties, duct tape, a knife, and a collection of license plates from at least 7 different vehicles. We're working now to identify those vehicles and track down those women to make sure they're safe." 7 license plates. 7 women he'd done this to. I felt sick. Officer Reeves put her hand on my shoulder. "But you're safe now. And because of Marcus here noticing something was wrong and trusting his instincts, we caught Howell before he could hurt you or anyone else." I turned to look at Marcus, who was standing quietly by the coffee machine. This stranger, this exhausted gas station employee working the worst shift at the worst time, had saved my life. He didn't know me. He had no reason to care about what happened to me, but he'd paid attention when it mattered most. "How did you know?" I asked him, my voice thick with emotion. "How did you know something was wrong?" Marcus shrugged, looking almost embarrassed by the attention. "I got robbed 6 months ago during a late shift. Guy came in with a gun, took everything from the register. Ever since then, I watch that security mirror like a hawk. I look for anything that seems off, anything that doesn't feel right. When I saw that guy crouch down behind your car instead of coming inside or pumping his own gas, every alarm in my head went off. I figured it was better to be wrong and look paranoid than to be right and not do anything." I walked over to him and wrapped my arms around him in a tight hug. He stiffened for a second, surprised, then hugged me back. "Thank you," I sobbed into his shoulder. "Thank you for paying attention. Thank you for caring about a complete stranger." After I gave my full statement to Officer Reeves, the police reattached my license plate and offered to escort me home. But I was shaking so badly, I couldn't even hold my car keys without dropping them. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, and the thought of getting back on that dark highway made me feel like I couldn't breathe. Officer Reeves saw the panic in my eyes and made the decision for me. "There's a decent hotel about 2 miles from here. I really think you should stay there tonight and drive home in the morning when you've had some rest and when it's light outside." I nodded gratefully and followed the patrol car to a small hotel off the highway. The police waited until I checked in and got to my room before they left. Once I was alone, I plugged in my phone and waited for it to charge enough to turn on. When it finally powered up, I had 17 missed calls. 9 from my parents, 6 from Nina, and 2 from Jordan. My heart ached seeing all those notifications. They'd been worried sick, and I hadn't been able to tell them I was okay. I called my dad first. He answered on the first ring. "Rachel? Sweetheart, where are you? We've been calling you for over an hour. Your mom is losing her mind." His voice cracked when he said it, and I could hear my mom in the background asking if it was me, if I was okay. I tried to speak, but all that came out was a sob. "Baby girl, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Where are you?" The concern in his voice broke something open inside me, and I told him everything. About the gas station, about Marcus and the note, about Dennis Howell and what he'd been planning to do to me. My dad went completely silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "We're coming to get you right now. Text me the hotel address. We'll be there in 3 hours." I tried to tell him it was almost 2 in the morning, that they didn't need to drive all that way, but he wouldn't hear it. "Rachel, you are our daughter. There is nowhere on this earth we wouldn't go for you. We're already getting in the car." My mom took the phone from him. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I should have made you stay. I should have insisted. She was crying now too. "Mom, this isn't your fault. Nobody could have known this would happen." But even as I said it, I wondered if I should have listened to her. After I hung up with my parents, I called Jordan. She picked up immediately, her voice frantic. "Rachel, oh my God, where have you been? I've been freaking out." When I told her what happened, she started sobbing so hard she could barely speak. "This is my fault. I never should have let you drive home alone. What if something had happened to you? What if that cashier hadn't noticed? I would never forgive myself." "Jordan, listen to me. You just got married. This was your special day. You cannot blame yourself for this. Some sick person decided to follow me. That's on him, not on you, not on anyone else." We talked for another 20 minutes until she finally calmed down. My parents arrived at the hotel at 4:30 in the morning. My dad held me for a long time without saying anything, and my mom kept touching my face like she needed to make sure I was really there, really okay. The next week was a blur. I gave additional statements to the police. I learned that Dennis Howell was being charged with stalking, attempted kidnapping, and a list of other crimes from Louisiana. The district attorney told me I might need to testify at his trial. I immediately deleted all my social media accounts. Instagram, Facebook, everything. I couldn't stand the thought of strangers knowing where I was or what I was doing. Nina thought I was overreacting, but I didn't care. My privacy was more important than likes and followers. About a week after everything happened, I drove back to that gas station during the daytime. I needed to see Marcus again, to thank him properly. I brought him a $200 gift card and a handwritten letter telling him how much his actions meant to me. When I walked in, he was restocking shelves. He looked surprised to see me. "Rachel, how are you doing?" We sat in his car in the parking lot and talked for over an hour. I asked him why he'd taken such a risk for a complete stranger. "Honestly, I almost didn't write that note," Marcus admitted. "I stood there for like 30 seconds, trying to decide if I was just being paranoid. What if I was wrong? What if that guy was just checking his tire pressure or something innocent? You would have thought I was some crazy person, and I probably would have gotten in trouble with my manager for scaring a customer." He shook his head. "But then I thought about what could happen if I was right, and I did nothing. I couldn't live with that. So I wrote the note. I'm so glad you trusted your gut," I told him. "You saved my life, Marcus. Actually saved it." He got quiet for a moment, then said, "My little sister is about your age. She drives alone all the time for her job." I kept thinking, what if that was her? What if someone saw something strange and didn't say anything because they didn't want to seem paranoid? I'd want someone to speak up for her, so I spoke up for you. If this story gave you chills, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching this from. I want to know this message is reaching people everywhere. That conversation with Marcus changed something fundamental in how I see the world. I'm more careful now. Absolutely. I'm more aware of my surroundings. I don't share my location or travel plans online anymore. I keep my phone charged when I'm driving long distances. But I refuse to live in constant fear. What I took away from that night isn't that the world is full of terrible people. What I learned is that there are good people too. People like Marcus who pay attention, who trust their instincts, who choose to care even when it would be easier not to. 3 months later, I was at a coffee shop when I noticed a man following a young woman around the store. He wasn't doing anything obviously wrong, but something about it felt off. The woman looked uncomfortable, but wasn't saying anything. Old me would have minded my own business, afraid of making a scene or being wrong, but new me walked up to that woman and quietly asked, "Hey, do you know that guy? Because he's been following you." It turned out she didn't know him, and she was scared but didn't know what to do. We told the barista together, and they asked the man to leave. The woman hugged me and thanked me with tears in her eyes. That's what Marcus taught me. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is nothing. I'm not saying you should put yourself in danger or confront dangerous people directly, but if you see something that doesn't feel right, trust that feeling. Tell someone. Make noise. Be the person who pays attention. In Jordan's case, everything worked out. She and her husband are happy, and we're all closer now than we've ever been. My parents still worry every time I drive anywhere, but they're getting better, and I still talk to Marcus every few weeks. He's become a real friend. Looking back on that night, I think about how many tiny things had to go exactly right for me to be here telling you this story. If Marcus had been on his phone instead of watching the mirror, if he'd second-guessed himself and not written that note, if I'd ignored it or thought it was a prank, if the police had been even 5 minutes later, any one of those things could have changed everything, but they didn't. Because one person chose to pay attention and chose to act. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. First, be smart about what you share online. I never thought my innocent Instagram post about a wedding could be used against me, but it was. Predators are watching social media looking for opportunities. Second, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't talk yourself out of your own gut feelings just because you're worried about being embarrassed or seeming paranoid. Third, and this is the most important one, if you're ever in a position to help someone, even a stranger, don't hesitate. You might be the only thing standing between them and disaster. Marcus didn't know me. He didn't owe me anything. He was just trying to get through another long night shift at a gas station. But he chose to care, and that choice saved my life. We need more people like Marcus in this world. People who pay attention when it matters. People who speak up even when it's uncomfortable. People who choose action over convenience. Be that person. I promise you it matters more than you could ever know.